Welcome to Your Morning, the podcast. If you're listening, welcome. And if you're watching, you can catch us on YouTube and also on Crave. We've got a really great show coming up. In this episode, a little bit of a good news, bad news situation in that we've got good news that the overdose deaths have decreased in this country, but there's still a lot of work to be done. So we are going to speak with the executive director, Karen McDonald. She's with the Toronto's drug checking service about what is the good news behind those headlines. So yes, we've made progress and what still needs to be done. Also, this was a fascinating investigation that was done by the Investigative Journalism Bureau. It's a series that looks into egg freezing, into the industry. And one of the takeaways for me was the fact that countries like the UK and the US have to publish their success rates. They do not in Canada, based on some privacy laws. So we get into what is actually being promised versus what the numbers show or don't show, and what you do and don't have access to.
All right, speaking of access, we've talked a little bit on this show about what it's like to co-parent when you may not be on the same page. Co-parenting apps are the thing to look into right now. And we're going to do that with Vivian Meraki, which is, I was thinking about a couple of friends of mine who may be going through separations right now, and to try to navigate that world and what could be potentially helpful tools when you're trying to negotiate what's happening with the children and trying to figure that out. Finances and also scheduling. So she's got some great recommendations on co-parenting apps. So that's coming up.
Which is also something I learned, that there are court-approved apps.
That's right.
I didn't know that.
Which is really interesting. Yeah, so that conversation's coming up. I had two really unique chats over the last little bit on our show. One was with Harvey Brownstone. You might know Harvey Brownstone as a celebrity interviewer. Maybe you've caught his television show or caught the YouTube show. But he was also Canada's first openly gay judge. And he's written a memoir. There's also a movie about to be made. So the question to think about his life, the question to think about during this interview is, who would play you in a memoir of your life? Because who plays him is pretty awesome.
Oh, fun.
So that's coming up. I also had the chance to chat with Molly Johnson. Molly Johnson is just an incredible feat in Canadian talent when it comes to music. It's interesting. You had a chance to chat with her backstage. Can you share what she said about the genre of music? When you asked her, when you said something about jazz, and she said it's not jazz, it's music for adults?
Something like that. But what was fun about Molly Johnson is because she's been in the industry for so long, she walked in here and she's like, I know this building. And she was talking about having like a punk hair. I only know her in the jazz era. And she's like, oh no, I used to have a mohawk. She was great. She had a lot of great memories to share.
She's phenomenal. I could have chatted with her for hours. So you'll get a couple minutes, a little snippet of that fulsome conversation coming up here on the podcast.
Yeah. Listen, we were talking about good news stories, and I've got two really good ones in the field of medicine. One, we know that a lot of Canadians do not have access to a family doctor, and this is monitored provincially. Well, the province of Nova Scotia has recruited more than 100 new doctors, and we're going to talk about how they did it, what they removed, the barriers they took out of the way to make that happen. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the Canadian movie called The Grand Seduction, but it's all about a small town in Newfoundland.
Oh, I do know this.
Yes, that tries to get a doctor to come.
That's
so
right.
It's not quite that. They didn't fake a cricket team, but you'll find out what they did do in order to get more doctors to land and to stay in the province. Also, the pictures really tell this story, but it is remarkable. I do remember the news story of a house fire in London, Ontario, and there was a young woman who was burned, and her facial burns were quite severe. She had access to the medical team at Hamilton Health Sciences, and the director of the burn center at Hamilton General comes on the show to talk about this incredible new procedure that they've done. I thought these photos were AI'd when I first looked at them. You cannot tell.
It's unbelievable.
You cannot tell the extent of the burn, and you can't tell from the before and after pictures.
That's what so when I saw the pictures, the first time I saw them, I thought that the publisher had made a mistake. And that the picture that we were seeing was actually her before. It is really incredible.
Yeah, and so we'll talk about the science behind this and the game changer that it is, because typically it had been skin grafts before, which means scarring and sometimes a difference in texture in skin. Like I said, it is an incredible conversation about the science, and we also talked through some of her reaction, her response as well. Western University student Caitlin Jeffrey suffered severe burns to her face in a house fire back in December. Well, here's what she looks like today. A team of doctors in Hamilton used a world-first experimental treatment on Caitlin's burns, and the results are incredible. The treatment uses exosomes to speed the healing process without the need for skin graft. Joining us today to tell us about the treatment is Caitlin's surgeon, Vice President of Research and Innovation at Hamilton Health Sciences, Dr. Marc Jeschke. Welcome to the program. Such an honor to have you here and to walk us through This is remarkable. It's like looking at a miracle. I thought that there must be some sort of filter on these results. Just incredible. I should tell everybody at home, we have some photos of Caitlin throughout her treatment process. They do show her severe burns. These are images that Caitlin has approved, yourself as well, and they help to demonstrate how successful this treatment was. So Dr. Jeschke, we're going to put up those pictures, and can you walk us through what treatment looked like at each stage?
Good morning, Anne-Marie, and thank you for having us or having me and reflecting what we have done. So you see here Caitlin's burn coming in very early after burn, and you see these profound depths of the burn to her face and her neck. And again, indicating to us that a wonderful, beautiful young woman, 18 years of age, will have a very high likelihood of having scars for the rest of her life. Again, you see the progression here. You can see again, appreciate the depths of the burn 5 days in. So between day 5 and now day 20 is when we started the treatment. We took her to the operating theater. We did what we normally had to do. And then we started and realized that the burns are so deep that she would have needed grafting or she would have healed with profound scarring. And so what we decided, or we just did not take this for granted, that an 18-year-old having the rest of the life ahead of her is suffering from debilitating scars. And people look at your face. That's the first thing people look at, and we just did not accept that Caitlin will have scars to her face. So that's where we came up with this novel treatment to hopefully, at that time, we kind of like expected that there may be beneficial results. But again, we did in the operating theater, we did this experimental treatment and saw this remarkable recovery of Caitlin.
Can you explain for us again, Doctor, how the exosomes work to get the results that we were showing?
So these exosomes I call fat bubbles or these fat particles. They have been increasingly recognized of having important signaling function in your body. And a lot of cells produce, almost all the cells produce exosomes. And what they do, and we did some research. So to be fair, we did work before on exosomes since about 2018-19 in lab science and in research. And so we saw the effect that exosomes have a signal to induce regeneration. So what they do is they make the cells go to survive, to recovery, to regeneration. So inducing a healing process within your body, so not causing any grafts. So that was, again, the hope that the exosomes would induce her face to heal. And you can see on her neck, the neck was so deeply burned, but even with the exosome there, we got it to heal. And subsequently now we have to obviously improve Caitlin's neck with a significant scarring. But again, the face healed just remarkably well, and then in a record time of speed.
What was Caitlin's reaction as she watched this process?
She was very, when you're 18 and you have this catastrophic event, you're impacted. And, obviously she reacted like a burn patient. She's like, I can't believe I don't want to live like this. This is terrible. And when we talked about this experimental treatment, she obviously has to agree, and the parents. And we provided some background, some information, and we agreed, all of them, let's give it a try. And I think that she was and still is very excited that, when you look at her face, and she's wearing makeup, even if there's no makeup, her skin is beautiful. So her face, instead of having any scars, healed completely with no scars, and the skin is just remarkable. So I think looking back, I think she's very much looking forward to not having scars to her face. She's obviously working through the process of the injury, but I'm hoping we were able to give her a good quality of life.
Dr. Jeschke, just remind us, without this exosome treatment, what might the results have looked like, or what would have the options been for Caitlin?
I personally, when we were in the operating theater and I had my colleagues, and we all saw the depths of the burn. So she would have normally required a grafting. And that even the best surgeon can do skin grafts, and they can have excellent results, but you have scars in your face. So the next scars would have been in her face for the rest of her life. And that is just something that, again, I personally did not want for Caitlin as this wonderful young 18-year-old person. So she would have had scars all over her face.
Dr. Marc Jeschke, Vice President of Research and Innovation at Hamilton Health Sciences, the Director of the Burn Center at Hamilton General Hospital. Congratulations to you and to your team, to Caitlin and her family, and thank you again for coming on to share with us this remarkable progress being made.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Life can make you strong, or it can break you. Those are the words that sum up the new memoir, Without Prejudice, by Canada's first openly gay judge, Harvey Brownstone. Harvey shares stories of growing up in Southern Ontario as the son of a Holocaust survivor through his landmark judicial career advocating for the families and the 2S LGBTQ+ community to becoming a celebrity interviewer. Here with more on his new book is the Honorable Harvey Brownstone. Great to have you in studio this morning.
Hi, Kelsey. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. You have lived such an incredible life. Just career-wise, you worked in family law. You became a judge at 38, just actually down the road here at Toronto's Old City Hall. You've also hosted TV and YouTube shows that are all about interviewing. So how did you write this book and sum up what has been an incredible journey?
Well, there's a lot of people who, like me, endured bullying, parental rejection, discrimination, even professional jealousy. And I wanted to share the coping mechanisms and the strategies that I developed to overcome those heartbreaks and turn them into success. That was the first reason. And the second reason was, I think it's time somebody told the public why the family court system and the criminal court system are just so broken and what needs to be done to fix them. So I wrote the book.
You tackle a lot in the book. You share details about the relationships that you have with your family. How do you think the challenges that you faced in those difficult times really shaped the career that you had within family law?
Well, when I told my parents I was gay, I was 19 years old. Now, this was 1976, and they threw me out. My parents threw me out, so I ended up destitute, penniless, homeless. I had to get myself through school, through law school. And those experiences, that hardship, stood me in very good stead when I became a judge, because I then had people appearing in my court who were also on the outside looking in. And when you're a fish out of water your whole life, which I kind of was as an openly gay lawyer and an openly gay judge, it gives you a lot of empathy. So I think it really impacted my career as a judge and the way I approached the delivery of justice more significantly than many others.
You've officiated weddings for people around the world, here in Canada, after Canada legalized same-sex marriage. What did that mean to you, to be able to do that?
You know, it was surreal. When I got appointed to the bench, it was 1995. Of course, gay people couldn't get married, but I would occasionally do weddings for friends who were straight. And it used to hit me that I am bestowing this status of marriage on these couples, but I'm not allowed to be married myself, even though I'm the one officiating. So in 2003, when same-sex marriage was legalized, it was a wonderful moment where all of us in the LGBT community felt included. Because being married means that you're not just roommates, you are legally a couple in the government registers, you're spouses, with all of the benefits and all of the obligations that that entails. And it was a tremendous experience to be able to bestow that privilege on so many couples. I must have officiated at 1,500 weddings at least.
Oh my God, 1,500?
I did a lot of weddings. I was the only judge in the country who was making himself publicly available to officiate at weddings in my chambers at the courthouse. So, you know, when you're doing family court and all you see is heartbreak all day long, and then you're doing these weddings where everybody's so happy and so in love, it was very healing.
Can I talk to you about your feature film that you have coming up? So your life, your story is being told. This book is being made into the feature film, and there's a very special person who is playing you. Can you share who is playing you?
Harvey the judge is played by David Arquette.
What?
Harvey, the young law student and lawyer, is played by David Mazouz. He starred in a TV show called Gotham. He played the young Batman, Bruce Wayne. And there's a little Harvey, Asher Alexander, who plays the little boy who gets bullied in the playground. I was on the set. I got to see the whole shoot, and it was quite an experience to see my life playing before my eyes on the screen.
What was your reaction when you found out the casting of this film?
I was thrilled. I didn't know what to think about David Arquette. I didn't know how. I've never seen him do a role like this, and no one will ever believe the way he threw himself into this portrayal, but we spoke a lot. We were together the whole shoot. And I think this performance by David Arquette is going to open a lot of eyes. He's not the David Arquette you would ever see in any other movie.
Well, listen, we are very excited for not only the book, but for the film, but to talk to you today. Thank you so much for coming in.
Oh, thank you, Kelsey, for having me on.
The Honourable Harvey Brownstone, Canada's first openly gay judge and author of Without Prejudice.
Federal health officials are highlighting progress in responding to Canada's complex drug crisis.
Those declines are real progress, but deaths remain far higher than a decade ago.
That's Health Minister Marjorie Michel announcing opioid overdose deaths in 2025 decreased by 23% from 2024. Despite a drop in deaths for 2 consecutive years now, experts are warning that this drug crisis is far from over. For more on the new data and what it means, we're joined by Karen McDonald. She's the Executive Director of Toronto's Drug Checking Service. Great to have you with us.
Morning.
Karen, while the overall... Yeah, I'm happy to have you. While the overall headline is good news, let's remind everybody of what we were facing last year. 2025, there were around 15 deaths per day. 78% of those were in BC, Alberta, and Ontario. And more than half of those fatal cases involved fentanyl. When we look at that data and we know that there's an improvement, why are the rates dropping?
So I think, there are many factors that may have contributed to the reduction in opioid toxicity deaths. So, for example, the availability of naloxone, which reverses the effects of an opioid and can therefore reverse an overdose. Also, there have been changes to how people are using drugs. So people are transitioning from injecting to smoking. But really, most importantly, and what I can speak most to, are changes in the composition and strength of the fentanyl supply. So fentanyl is a very strong opioid that many Canadians choose to use. It really has replaced heroin in our street drug supply. But that fentanyl is incredibly unpredictable and contaminated. So it's unpredictable in that a person who is using fentanyl doesn't necessarily know how much of it they're using. And that's obviously critical information given how strong fentanyl is. But also the fentanyl that's circulating is contaminated with many other drugs that increase the risk of overdose and complicate overdose response. And an example of that is benzodiazepines. So what we have observed is that weaker fentanyl and fentanyl that is less contaminated with drugs like benzodiazepines coincides with fewer deaths. And we saw this in 2024 and 2025. And now, this is like overly simplifying a very complicated drug supply, but there is a relationship there that exists between supply and harm.
Despite the year-over-year decrease, this is the second year, I believe, in a row that we've seen the numbers drop. More Canadians, we know, are dying of opioid overdoses today than they were a decade ago. 2016 is when these numbers first started being gathered. What are the biggest obstacles that you see in reining in this crisis? I know we've talked about, fentanyl, but what else do you see?
In terms of obstacles, well, I just think, it's mostly the drug supply that is driving, the fentanyl supply that is driving this crisis. And that's just something that we don't have control over. This is an unregulated market that we don't have control over. I think in terms of obstacles, we still have a lot more work to do in terms of coming together and collaboratively responding to this crisis and making sure that we're actually listening to people that are being directly impacted and those that are directly caring for them. And we also need to ensure that this is a systems response, right? This isn't just about the drug supply. This is also about people needing housing and other systems changes that need to be implemented.
Well, let's talk about some of the supports that are available. We heard the health minister there say there is no silver bullet solution. I know that this is your experience as well. We saw provinces who are shifting away to how they respond to substance abuse. BC axed its drug decriminalization pilot project. Ontario and Alberta have either closed or are defunding supervised consumption sites. What effect could those have on this progress that we've made in the crisis so far going forward?
So this is a very complicated problem and it needs a multi-pronged solution. So, the government talks about the solution being prevention, harm reduction, treatment and recovery, and enforcement. And we do need to make sure that our response includes all 4 of those pillars. And if we put too much emphasis on one, what we are likely going to do is, leave people behind, which is going to result in death and harm. So we need to ensure that, all pieces of the puzzle are given attention and being invested in.
You know, one of in Ontario in particular, one of the focuses has been what they deem as an abstinence program and putting their focus there. How does that help or not help in a situation like this?
I mean, investing in treatment and recovery is hugely important when people are ready to, if they are ready to, try to get off drugs. It's important that they have options for treatment and recovery, but we just have to make sure that it's not one or the other, because the reality is there are a lot of people who aren't ready, or a lot of people who maybe can't get into treatment right away. And if our only focus is on treatment and recovery that isn't accessible or isn't of interest to people at that time, we are going to put those people in harm and leave them behind.
Karen McDonald, Executive Director of Toronto's Drug Checking Service, I want to thank you for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
This is Your Morning, the podcast, where we bring you some of the best conversations from our show every week. Join us live on CTV every weekday, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, 7 to 10 a.m. Atlantic on CTV, CTV News Channel, and Crave.
As more Canadian women are freezing their eggs, a new investigation exposes some concerning issues across the industry. The Investigative Journalism Bureau series found some fertility clinics are providing misleading information on treatment success, rates, and costs while operating under minimal regulation. For more on what's happening in Canada's fertility industry, we're joined in studio by Wendy Ann Clark, a reporter with the Investigative Journalism Bureau. Welcome to Your Morning. Good to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Just to give everybody some numbers to set this up, according to the Canadian Fertility and Andrology Society, just 1 in 4 embryos created from frozen eggs result in a live birth. How does that square with what clinics are telling women?
Thank you so much for that great question. So, sometime during the pandemic, I started hearing more and more about egg freezing. It would be ads, social media posts, even celebrities we've heard talk about, taking control of their future through egg freezing.
Yeah.
And me personally, I've always felt very at peace about my fertility. If I had children, wonderful. If not, I knew that, there's purpose in that as well.
Yeah.
But it started sort of encroaching on me until it entered my friend group, and I started having friends that said that they were going to, consultations at fertility clinics.
Yeah.
And suddenly something I never worried about became something that I felt almost irresponsible for ignoring. So I started looking into it, the costs. What happens when thousands of women invest tens of thousands of dollars in this technology? And the answers were really hard to find. And what I did find challenged just about everything that I thought I knew about egg freezing. So at the Investigative Journalism Bureau, my colleagues and I, so Laurie Colbert and Mirali Katul, we did an 8-month deep dive into this industry.
Okay.
And we analyzed the websites and social media accounts of 42 clinics that we found to be marketing egg freezing in this country, representing about 110 locations across the country.
Yeah.
And not at all clinics, but in the large majority, we found widespread concerns raised by experts about misleading advertising.
Right.
In many cases, clinics were overstating what egg freezing can realistically offer, suggesting a level of certainty and control over future fertility that's just not backed up by the data, as you mentioned.
Let's talk about some of that data that you found. A number of women shared with you that they felt, what you were describing as this pressure by fertility clinics to act fast. And according to the IGB analysis of fertility clinics, one cycle of egg freezing costs between $6,000 and $13,000. Necessary medical costs on top of that between $3,000 to $9,000, and then storing eggs costs between $300 to $1,000 a year. So what did your investigation show you about the data that clinics are providing to women when it comes to making a decision?
So there's no transparency about clinic level success rates in this country. So clinics are not required to make that information public. Unlike in America, where the Center for Disease Control makes that information public, you can search any clinic in the country and find that information. In the UK as well. In Canada, that's not required. So patients are left, navigating these messages that they're getting from these clinics and not really having the real data and the outcomes to be able to measure them up against. So Canadians are really living in a void here.
Countries you mentioned, like the US, the UK, Australia, they are all required to publish their fertility success rates. Why? Health Canada says they don't do this because of privacy reasons, because of a decision by the Supreme Court that says that it would be an infringement. But what did experts tell you about what they want potential clients to know?
So, one, success rates. And what we need in this country is a parliamentary review of assisted reproduction. Assisted reproduction kind of lives in a void where there's no level of government that's fully taking responsibility for it as a customer-facing medical marketplace. And so patients are left navigating this fragmented system of rules and oversight, and they're the ones left spending tens of thousands of dollars and not really having enough information to make an informed decision. And so that's what experts are calling for. They're calling for the parliamentary review that would make uniform standards across provinces. They're calling for a government-funded website that would make success rates public, and just greater oversight and consumer protections that would make this industry safer for people that are increasingly investing in this technology. And what's interesting, Anne-Marie, is that the women that we spoke to 30 women as part of this investigation who are investing in this or thinking about investing in this technology, and they didn't say, contrary to the narrative, that they wanted to focus on their careers or they were prioritizing their careers over motherhood. What they were saying is they just felt like, the economy, the status of relationships, and just society had made it financially more difficult for them to be mothers. So this, very human desire to be a mother has felt largely elusive for a lot of people.
Were you surprised at what you found the longer you dug into it?
Absolutely. It was like a Pandora's box. So the more that we looked, the more that we saw that there's a lot of issues and lots of infrastructure and proof around the world that there's solutions, real tangible solutions that we can be doing in Canada, but we need to have the will of our governments to really, really close the gap here.
For anybody who is interested in reading more about what you have found, where can they find it?
ijb.utoronto.ca and in post-media outlets across the country.
Wendy Ann Clark, reporter with the Investigative Journalism Bureau. Great investigation. Thanks for coming on this morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
If you are in a co-parenting relationship, or perhaps you're watching someone you love struggling through a co-parenting situation, you likely know firsthand how hard communication can be. So how do you find a path to productive, healthy communication? How do you find a path forward? You might want to lean on technology. Okay, so hear us out. Vivian Meraki is a parenting expert. She's here with 4 apps designed to keep communication clear, productive, and really emotionally neutral, which I think is the key here, right, Vivian?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so let's walk through these apps. The first one is called Best Interest. I understand this is court approved, so walk us through the pros and cons of this one.
Yeah, so Best Interest is a brand new app, or fairly new, out of all the other apps that I could be talking about that have been around for a little longer. And what makes this really unique is that it really focuses on 2 things. 1, communication, and 2nd, scheduling, which are often the most common sources of conflict for a lot of parents. The AI tool and component of it is designed to help you keep your tone really neutral. But not only that, it also helps to block tone.
When you say it keeps tone neutral, like if you type something in like...
that's inflammatory, it'll flag it.
It flags it or changes it?
It flags it. Yes.
Like for you, and then...
For you, and then for the other person receiving it, it actually will block the receipt. So for the person who has a co-parent where perhaps the communication is frequently really triggering, you can actually set it up in a way where it will actually reduce that inflammatory language coming back at you.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
And I'm sure very helpful. Next up, you've got our Family Wizard. This is one, I guess, the best known apps. It is recommended by lawyers, mediators, and courts. So walk us through this one.
Yeah, so this one is probably one of the longest standing apps around. It's a lot more robust in terms of also supporting expenses, tracking, also in terms of communication. This one has a tone meter, so very similarly, it allows you to understand if something is inflammatory, but it relies on the person to change it, as opposed to any kind of blocking, which the other one is doing.
And then you've got all the financial stuff in there too.
Exactly.
That's very helpful. If you're looking, speaking of finance, if you're looking for a lower cost alternative to our Family Wizard, you're recommending an app. It's called AppClose.
Yes,
is that right?
AppClose.
Okay, what does this one look like?
Yeah, so this one's really similar to our Family Wizard. However, at the same time, it is probably, a lot of users will say, it is the cheaper version of it. There is a little bit more, jankiness and some of the reports around some of the bugs that can happen. But at the same time, it does offer everything. The only exception is that for those in Canada, this particular app, while it allows for the expenses, the bank transfers is really set up for the US or for Canadian parents we don't have access to that component of the app.
Okay, and then the last one you recommend is more of like a family organization app, right?
Yes.
It's called Cozy.
It's exactly Cozy. So Cozy is different than the other ones I'm talking about, which is not a divorce or co-parenting app. This is not court approved, but for a co-parenting dynamic where you are able to collaborate more and coordinate with each other, this one might be a good option. It's a lot cheaper. It's only about $4 or $5 a month, and it allows for a lot more scheduling, coordination, and organization.
How much are some of the other ones? Can they go up to quite a bit per month?
Yeah, so the other ones range from about $13, $14 a month to our Family Wizard, which is $17 a month. But that one, they bill you per year. So that's why it feels a little bit different than the per month cost.
And the last one you were just talking about, are children involved in these apps at all, or it's just between the two parents?
It's just between the two parents.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
Vivian, thank you so much.
My
really
pleasure.
helpful. Appreciate it.
This morning, after decades of performing in 8 albums, Molly Johnson still believes in love. First album in 5 years, Molly Johnson's Talk to Me is joyous, it's funky, it is full of Canadian collaborators and has beautiful instrumentation. And of course, behind Molly's always amazing voice. And Molly Johnson is here with us this morning. It's great to have you in studio.
I'm so happy to be here.
Molly, this album has so many collaborations. You've got a song with Canadian rapper, award-winning rapper, Havaya Mighty.
Yeah.
How, just like among many collaborations on this, how do you seek out those collabs? How does that conversation go?
I had help.
Did you?
Record company Universal, we agreed, let's try different things. Let's do something different with this record. And they brought Havaya. And I met Havaya, and I loved Havaya. And she's so smart. Gosh, golly, goodness, so smart young woman. And the song was about an older girl like me begging a younger person to talk to me. And she does. And it just worked really well, really well.
You were saying to me before our conversation when we were off air that you love this album.
I do. I never say that.
Why do you never say that?
Well, because there's always things you want to do better, and that propels you to your next record, by the way. You're never... I'm not completely loving it, because that's what makes you do the next record and try and be a little better at stuff. But this record, we had so much joy making it. Yeah.
It's good.
Kind of love it.
It's good. One of the most striking tracks is your cover of the Tragically Hip's Long Time Running with your good friend, Jim Cuddy of Blue Rodeo. Here's a clip for you.
It's been a long time running.
It's been a long time coming.
Molly, what do you see when you watch this?
Oh my God, no makeup. Look at her. 67 years old, no makeup. Yay! I see my drummer, Davide Dorenzo, producing that track with literally blood and sweat and tears. To take on a Tragically Hip tune, you need to be very careful. This is legacy work. This is Canada's most beloved Gord, Downie. We couldn't mess it up. So we only had 4 hours. And Jimmy walked in the studio. Nobody knew what the song was about. That's Gord Downie at his best. That's a poet. So everybody had a different way of looking at that song. And then we had 4 hours, and I just love it.
Oh,
I love Jim Cuddy. We've known each other since we were running these Queen streets at like 17 years old.
You got a lot of history here.
I do.
You do.
I do.
You'll be taking that history to cities like Winnipeg and Montreal later this month. Molly, you've been singing for decades. You've been performing and gracing us with your beautiful presence on stage for a lifetime.
Thank you.
What excites you most today?
You know, my trio, the 3 guys, Mike Downs, Robbie Botosh, Davide Dorenzo, we've been together, I don't want to, yeah, I am, 25 years and counting. And we had a rehearsal yesterday, and we just love each other. And we're a real band. And I'm really looking forward to getting out there and playing this music with them. We made the record together. We're going to perform it together. I'm very excited.
You shared with me you've got a nickname overseas, the trio of you guys.
Yeah, the Rolling Stones. We are the Rolling Stones of the international jazz community.
Oh, I love it.
I know.
How good did that feel?
Love it. Well, I look at Mick Jagger at, what is he, 80 or something, and I just adore him. I love the Stones. Who doesn't love the Stones? Come on.
Oh, well, who doesn't love you, Molly Johnson?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, I had fun.
This was really great. Talk to Me is out everywhere, by the way, June 26th.
Nova Scotia is reporting its strongest year of doctor recruitment on record. New figures show the province brought in just under 200 physicians when retirements and departures are factored in. The new hires include family doctors, specialists, and 33 physicians who have moved to Nova Scotia from the U.S. For more on this very exciting news, I am joined by Dr. Amanda McDonald-Green, family physician and president of Doctors Nova Scotia. First of all, congratulations and good morning.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You know, some people would be familiar with the movie, which was based off a book, which is called The Grand Seduction, all about trying to get a doctor to come to a small town. What changed in Nova Scotia's recruitment strategy to create this kind of success?
I think it's really been the payoff of a lot of different areas. So Nova Scotia Health and DHW really worked hard to do outreach to countries where they have similar medical systems and training. The College of Physicians and Surgeons has made it easier for physicians to come into the area and the province. And they've also created new training pathways for physicians trained elsewhere that don't necessarily have the same type of training that we do. We're also seeing the benefit of increased residency training spots in Nova Scotia, and a lot of those are longitudinal based in more rural communities, and those are boasting about 80% retention in those communities that are often underserved. There's also been a lot of grassroots initiatives with municipalities and towns and them coming together to welcome and help support new physicians coming into their area. So it's been exciting to see, but there's still a lot of work to be done.
You have hit all the points that you hear about in every province where people are frustrated. Either there's not enough spots or international recruit, like getting the licensing up to date is too difficult for people. You guys have seen the problems, you've tackled it, and now you have these numbers. How much was international recruitment versus retaining graduates trained in Nova Scotia part of this strategy?
So I'm not privy to the entire strategy from Nova Scotia Health, but I know that 40% of the new recruits were internationally trained physicians. What I was excited to see with the Dalhousie residents that we've been able to retain is for family medicine, a lot more are choosing longitudinal comprehensive care, where they really are attached to a patient panel, which we haven't seen in as high of numbers before, where previously they would do more locum or more piecemeal work. So I think that's really encouraging to see as well.
You know, despite these gains, you know these numbers as well. More than 60,000 people are still waiting for a family doctor in Nova Scotia. What would need to continue, although you guys have made great strides, what would need to continue to lessen that gap?
I think as we're integrating new physicians into the system, it's time to look at ways to support and retain some of the physicians we have as well. So a lot of that is workflow issues. So things like optimization of health homes, where family physicians work with other allied providers, reduction of administrative burden. Doctors Nova Scotia has done a lot of work to support internationally trained physicians who can sometimes face different barriers and systemic issues. So I think more continued work to support the physicians that are coming in and the physicians that we have here.
I imagine you guys are going to be fielding a lot of phone calls and emails saying, how can you help us from the rest of the country? Dr. Amanda McDonald-Green, president of Doctors Nova Scotia. Great work for you and your team.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody, whether you're listening or watching to today's episode.
Yeah, and for more great conversations, you can subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts.
But of course, we'd love for you to watch our actual TV show where you get to see more of these moments. More moments.
Deer in headlights, that's me.
Tune in for that.
Tune in for that. More moments where we have so much fun. We bring you everything you need to know to start your day. How are you going to watch us? Weekday mornings on CTV, CTV News Channel, and on Crave. Start your morning with us.